There is a feeling that most introverts know but rarely admit out loud. The text comes in. Plans are cancelled. And before the polite reply is even typed, something inside quietly exhales. Not disappointment, not even neutrality. Relief. Pure, immediate, almost guilty relief. And then comes the second feeling, the one that follows the first, like a shadow. What is wrong with me? Because the world has taught us that wanting to be with people is healthy. That excitement about social plans is normal. That relief when those plans disappear is something to be ashamed of, something to hide, something to explain away. But here is what psychology actually says. That relief is not a character flaw. It is not rudeness dressed up as introversion. It is something far more profound. It is your nervous system finally being allowed to come home. To understand why, we need to understand what social interaction actually costs an introvert. Not emotionally, not philosophically, but neurologically. Research consistently shows that introverts and extroverts process stimulation differently at the brain level. A landmark study by psychologist Elaine Aron found that introverts have a naturally higher baseline of cortical arousal. This means the introvert brain is already running at a higher processing load before any social event begins. When social interaction is added on top of that baseline, the nervous system does not coast. It works. Hard. Every conversation requires more cognitive bandwidth. Every new face, every shift in group dynamics, every moment of small talk costs something real. This is why, by the end of a social gathering, many introverts do not simply feel tired. They feel emptied, like a phone that started at 40% and is now at 3%. And this is also why the cancel plan does not feel like a loss. It feels like being handed back something that was already spoken for. Imagine waking up on a Saturday morning, knowing you have a dinner party that evening. You cannot fully relax into the morning because part of your mind is already preparing, already rehearsing conversations, already managing the low hum of anticipatory effort. That background processing has a name in psychology. It is called anticipatory fatigue. And for introverts, it begins long before the event itself. When the plans are cancelled, it is not just the evening that opens up. It is the entire day. The mental energy that was already being quietly spent is suddenly returned. That sensation, that flood of reclaimed space, is what the body reads as relief. It is not that you did not want to see those people. It is that you can finally stop preparing to perform. Because that is the word many introverts use when they are being honest. Perform. Not in a dishonest way, not in a fake way, but in the very real sense that navigating social spaces requires a version of yourself that is always slightly on, slightly curated, slightly managed. And the cancelled plan means that version of you gets to rest. Psychologists call this the restorative niche, a concept developed by Brian Little, professor at Harvard and Cambridge, to describe the environments and activities that allow people to recharge and return to their authentic personality. For introverts, solitude is not emptiness, it is restoration. It is where the self is rebuilt after the cost of being social. This is something extroverts often genuinely cannot feel from the inside. For extroverts, social interaction is the recharge. The cancelled plan is the drain. The quiet evening alone is what depletes them. Neither experience is more valid, but one of them has been treated as the cultural default, and the other has spent decades apologising for itself. Think about every time you have said yes to something you did not want to attend, not out of genuine desire, but out of fear of what it would mean to say no. Fear of seeming antisocial. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of the question that always follows. Why do you not like people? But introversion was never about not liking people. Research by psychologist Jonathan Cheek and others in the field distinguishes between introversion and shyness, between introversion and social anxiety, between preference for solitude and fear of connection. They are not the same thing. An introvert can love deeply, can crave meaningful conversation, can be the warmest person in the room, and still feel relief when the room disappears for the night. The relief is about energy, not affection, about nervous system limits, not the value placed on relationships. And yet, the guilt persists, because the relief arrives before the logic does. The heart exhales before the mind can explain it, and in that gap, shame finds a place to live. Many introverts describe this as a quiet internal contradiction. The cancelled plans are genuinely welcomed, but so is the need to hide that welcome, to text back quickly, to add an exclamation point, to perform disappointment they do not feel because real feelings would require an explanation they are too tired to give. That performance of disappointment is its own kind of exhaustion, a second layer on top of the first. Here is what the science wants you to hear. The introvert who feels relief is not failing at friendship. They are succeeding at self-awareness. They know what their nervous system needs before it reaches the point of collapse. That is not a weakness. That is an unusually honest relationship with your own limits. Carl Jung, who first developed the framework of introversion and extroversion in the 1920s, wrote that the introvert is not someone turned away from the world. They are someone who turns inward to find the world. Solitude is not absence, it is presence of a different kind. And this is where the healing begins. Not in forcing yourself to want what others want, not in performing enthusiasm you do not feel, but in learning to say, without apology, that this is how you are built. The relief you feel when plans are cancelled is your body telling you the truth. It is a signal, not a symptom. It is information, not dysfunction. Healing for an introvert is not becoming someone who loves every social invitation. It is becoming someone who no longer hates themselves for not loving it. It is learning to communicate honestly, to tell the people who matter that you need time alone, not because you love them less, but because without that time, you have less of yourself to give. Many introverts find that when they begin to explain this, the people worth keeping understand, and the relationships deepen, not despite the honesty, but because of it. It is also learning to cancel plans yourself sometimes, without waiting for the other person to do it first. To honour your own energy before it runs out completely. To choose rest as an act of self-respect, rather than receiving it only when the world happens to cancel on you. Because there is a difference between relief that is gifted and relief that is chosen. One leaves you grateful but passive. The other builds something inside you. A small, quiet confidence that your needs are real, that your limits are valid, that solitude is not something you stumbled into, but something you are allowed to want. If you are someone who has spent years pretending the cancelled text did not feel like a gift, this is your permission to stop pretending. You are not broken. You are not cold. You are not someone who needs to be fixed or stretched or socially reconditioned. You are someone whose nervous system tells the truth in a world that often prefers a more social lie. And that exhale you feel when the plans fall through. That is not shame. That is your whole self finally coming home.